Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I really want to welcome you to the announcement of a major new innovation that we are doing, a model, we hope, for the country, for our pre-kindergarten students, countywide. We are the first county in the United States who is doing anything like this. And you are here because each of you is one of the thought leaders in the county, one of the elected officials in the county, one of the advocates for preschool education in the county, and your understanding of what we're doing is absolutely essential to our future success, which we anticipate will be pretty big. So before we start off with exactly what this is about, we have everybody in this room is extremely important, but I do need to introduce the elected officials, because as one of them, I know how ticked off we get when they don't do that. That's just how it is. There are some who will be speaking, so I will not introduce them yet, but for the ones who are not on the agenda, let me start by introducing the mayor of Calistoga, Chris Canning. And from the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Brad Wagenknecht. And from the Napa County Office of Education Board of Trustees, Ann Cash and Lisa Lindsay. We also have some principals here today. Julie Hurdell, principal of West Park. I saw Olivia McCormick. There she is, principal of Shearer. And we are expecting, but I don't think I see them yet, Helen Roca, principal of Pueblo Vista, and Troy Knox. So when they come in, we'll have them wave. And also expecting Superintendent Patrick Sweeney, but I don't see him yet. So, okay, why are we here? Because there's a big problem that we're trying to solve, and the problem has been ongoing for more than 50 years. It's been ongoing for the entire time that I've been in public education and beyond, and that is that we have an achievement gap. And there is nobody who follows education who has missed the fact that this is the biggest problem that we face today. We read about it all over. It is not just in California, and it is not just in the United States. It is in many countries around the world. There is a gap between the children who come from more affluent families and who speak the dominant language of the environment that they live in, and the children who come from poorer families. And that gap is described by the University of Chicago as a 30 million word gap. It has to do with what children hear in their homes well before they ever get to school. So if you're a child, how many of you have children or grandchildren? And you know that when you brought that child and grandchild home from the hospital, you immediately started to narrate the day. We talk to our babies. We talk to them from day one. Good morning, sunshine. How are you? Guess what we're going to do today? Well, first we're going to get up and I'm going to change your diaper. Ooh, yes, you certainly were busy last night. And then we're going to go have some breakfast. And after breakfast, we're going to put on your clean clothes. And then we're going to go to the supermarket because we need a lot of things. And later today, and on and on and on until sometimes I wonder that the kids aren't thinking if they could form thoughts, when is she ever going to shut up? But through all this barrage of words and language, they start to make sense of it, and they start to recognize words, and they recognize objects. And so when we get to school and we're trying to teach children how to read, the process of reading is decoding talk written down. So if I gave you right now a passage in German and I said, read it, you might be able to read it, you could make some sounds, but if I said to you, what does it mean? It's most likely that you would have no idea. Well, that's what happens to children who come to school without those 30 million words. It's so much harder for them to learn to read if they don't know what the meaning of those words is. And a new study that was just done at Stanford also looked at automaticity, how quickly you recognize when a word is said. So if you come from a middle-class family and I say dog, and I show you 4 pictures, you will immediately look at the dog. You know what the dog is. But if at home English is not the language spoken and I say dog, it's going to take you a little bit longer because you kind of have to translate in your head what is it. And so you will look at that picture a little bit more slowly. Well, then if we say the dog is on the sofa, and you're the upper middle class kid, you know what the dog is, so you immediately look at the dog, and obviously that blue thing underneath the dog must be the sofa, and you figure that out. But if you're still processing which one is the dog, by the time you get to that, you've lost the sofa. So you don't learn that new word. And that gap, by the time children are 18 months old, they already have a gap of several months. By the time they get to kindergarten, that gap is as much as 2 years. That's huge. That's huge. So when we talk about the achievement gap, and people say, the schools are doing a terrible job, look at that achievement gap, we're not thinking about the fact that the achievement gap comes with the children. And if you're a child in kindergarten and you're having trouble processing what's going on because they're trying to teach you, these days we're teaching you how to read and write, and you're writing 3 sentences and you're reading. If you're having a problem, school is not a fun place. And the last thing that we want to do to our little ones is to have them not like school when they first get there because it's hard. And there's a whole phenomenon about learned helplessness, and after a while you don't even bother to try because you know you can't do it. So the gap widens. And we know that a much larger percentage of kids who come from those homes are less likely to finish high school and less likely to go on to higher education. So it has a ripple effect throughout their lives. That's what we're here to try and help fix today. So if your parents don't speak English and perhaps don't read even in Spanish, then it's not likely that you're being read to at home. We read our kids' books all the time, nonstop. Sometimes I wonder about how many times we read books. I look at my daughter and her husband when they read to their kids. I used to read a bedtime story, maybe 2. I didn't read 8. I mean, the kids pile up the books. First this one, and then this one, and then that one. Like, what time are you planning to go to bed, children? Midnight? So they hear books all the time, and when they finish the book, they say, and again, until you want to take certain books and throw them in the trash, because I can't read that story anymore. Well, the other thing that's interesting about today's young children that I'm sure you've all noticed, one of the most prized possessions that they try to get their hands on is your smartphone or your tablet. This is not surprising because they want the toys that we want. And what do we spend perhaps too much of our time doing? Looking at them. We're sitting having dinner with a loved one in a restaurant, and we're pulling out that phone to make sure we didn't get any messages. Come on, you've all done it. Anybody here never done that? Yeah, okay. So the kids want it, and I listen to my grandchildren sitting in the back seat of the car. Mama, can I have your iPhone? There's a marvelous video of a little 2-year-old, 1-year-old, sitting on the ground looking at the iPad and just swiping. And her face, she's so engaged, she's so excited and seeing a picture of herself. Wow, and they know how to find what they want on there. And then you put a magazine in front of her. And she goes like that. And she's distressed because it doesn't do anything. It just sits there. She can't make it do stuff. So she's not interested in that. This is not to say that we're replacing books. We are not replacing books. There's nothing like sitting on your mother's lap and having a story read to you. But we are going to supplement that experience with the kind of digital technology that every preschool child wants. I used to try to give my grandchildren the toy phones. They looked at me like, you think I'm dumb? I may be one, but I'm smarter than that. They want the real thing. So what we have today is a program that was designed to be used on any technology, on iPhones and iPads and other tablets and computers and whatever you have. It doesn't matter. It is, what do they say? It's agnostic as far as technology is concerned. And that means that the children can have access to it 24/7. It was designed for exactly the problem that we talked about, to give children the opportunity to have stories read to them at any time, and the stories are in English and Spanish. So if you are a parent who doesn't necessarily read Spanish, you can listen to the story in Spanish and then click and listen to it in English. But what makes it so engaging for children is that they can control, by tapping the screen, things will happen. So if you're reading a story about a picnic, if I'm just reading a book and I say, and then the ants came to the picnic, well, okay, I can sort of picture that. But if you tap the screen, you'll get to see the ants marching up the hill towards the food. And there's music, which makes it even more enticing for little ones. So they want to hear that story again and again. They want to control that tablet again and again, and they are learning. When the child is in the supermarket waiting online for the bus to come, in the doctor's office, you can pull out your phone and that child can be listening to 3 or 4 stories. But it's not just stories, there are also games. One of the most fun games I just discovered on there is a color game. Now, kindergarten teachers, have we ever given our kids a worksheet and said, circle all the hats that are red? Yeah, we've done that. Okay, exciting? Not so much. Now, I want you to picture Lucy and Ethel in the candy factory with the conveyor belt. See, you're already having a good time just thinking about it. So what this does is the child gets to look at a palette of colors, and they tap the color they're interested in, red. And suddenly, hats go by on a conveyor belt, and some are red, and some are white, and blue, and purple, and they tap each time they see a red hat. So you are again developing that automaticity, and it's fun. So my 3-year-old likes to do that. She maxed it out the first time. For the 5-year-old, we speeded it up because you can do that too. Ethel and Lucy. So it goes a little faster. So that at different levels, you can increase your expertise and your ability to use this. There are word recognition, the Dolch sight words that they play whack-a-word instead of whack-a-mole. Lots of engaging and fun games, alphabet books, science books, this entire library, which we are now going to be giving at no cost to every family of preschool children in Napa County. Wow. So that's enough for me for right now, because we're going to tell you in a little while about exactly how it works and how they'll sign up, and we're going to have a training later today for teachers so that they can help families log on. We wanted everyone to know about it so you can get the word out to all the people that you touch and interact with, because in this room we have the county. We have the county, and we have a way of getting it out to everybody. So we have some very special friends with us today. And the first one who I am honored to introduce is our former state superintendent. I think most of you remember Delane Easton if you have been in California for a while. You probably remember that Delane Easton was the state superintendent for 2 terms, but Before that, she spent 4 terms in the state legislature as an assemblywoman, where she represented parts of Alameda and Santa Clara counties. Before that, she was the corporate manager for Pacific Telesis Group, and before that, she taught political science and women's studies. But when we think back to what Delane did while she was state superintendent, one of them was the adoption of high standards. Remember, we didn't have standards until then. We all kind of did our own thing, which was not such a good idea. She did class size reduction. Every kindergarten teacher who now has 30 kids in their class remembers the glory days when we had no more than 20 in our classes, and that made sense for kindergarten. She established the first California Educational Technology Task Force that did the first plan to increase student access to technology. And how many of you remember NetDay? NetDay, when we got volunteers in to wire our classrooms. That was back in the 90s, where we were actually pulling cable is what we were doing with the help of Silicon Valley. And she had the whole administration out here. And from NetDay, Al Gore went back, and that's how we got E-rate. So we owe her a huge debt of gratitude, and with great pleasure, Delane Easton.
You want to know what a leader looks like? That's what a leader looks like. And I came here today really to thank Barbara for her tireless efforts on behalf of the children, not just of this county, but of the entire state of California. She was always my ally. She was always there. You know, at the time we did NetDay, you may not remember this, but the governor then made sort of fun of me. Now, it got copied by 40 states, and a lot of governors from his party showed up at those NetDays later. But that first one, we had 30,000 volunteers. And Al Gore said to me, if California's not wired, holy mackerel, that means the nation's not wired. And so that's where E-rate came from. But in my days in the superintendency, I had a lot of wonderful educators who taught me about the importance of preschool. And I did have a universal preschool task force that we convened in '97. The report came out in '98. And it said within 10 years we ought to be doing universal preschool in California. Truth is that we are living in one of the states in the union that has the highest percentage of poor children. Oh yes, you know, everybody says, well, we got the most children. Of course we have the most poor children. But no, we have a higher percentage of poor children. And so if you have looked at the research, and I know most of you in this room are aware, that when a child is born, they are born with the full complement of brain cells. You don't get more brain cells. You're born with all you're going to get. And the question is, will they get connected? These connections are called synapses. And there are certain synapses, if they are not made by the time a child is 18 months, or 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years, you can never go back and retrofit them. Here's what the National Research Council said. Quote, from the time of conception to the first day of kindergarten, development proceeds at a pace exceeding that of any other stage of life. This is it. This is when we're really laying the groundwork for what's going to happen from this day, for that child, from the day they're born forward. And we have something to say about that. I love, one of my favorite books on earth is The Scientist in the Crib. If you don't want to read something as dense and statistical as the National Research Council, try The Scientist in the Crib. It is a happy book. And this is what the authors say. They are pediatricians. The human baby's computational system is really a network, held together by language and love instead of by optic fiber. So what we're talking about is really the network of the child's brain that we are going to advance in very important ways in this Napa County effort. And I'm here to salute you. I have looked at a lot of the research. You know, when I first did the preschool task force, I used the Perry preschool study, which showed the return on investment was 7 to 1. As a corporate planner for one of the biggest companies in the country at the time, we looked at return on investment. I'm fond of saying that in Department of Finance, they know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. But we know And those of you who are in businesses know that what we need to be thinking about is return on investment. So if you don't like the Perry Preschool study, which said the return on investment was 7-to-1, let's look at some more recent studies. Oh, there would be RAND. You've heard of RAND, a National Defense Department think tank? In 2007, they said the return was 16-to-1. There was a study done in Chicago which found at the Chicago Child Parent Centers, the return on investment was 10-to-1. Do you know why Lyndon Johnson proposed Head Start? Because when he was 4, I have one of my best friends, retired teacher, is living outside of Austin, Texas, and we went to see the LBJ Ranch. And I admit I've been a little angry at him because of the Vietnam War, but I got over it this time because I went there and I realized that Lyndon Johnson's mother, who was a sharecropper, her mother and father, parents were sharecroppers, his mother went to the teacher and begged her to let Lyndon come to school when he was 4 years old because he could read. And she thought that would help him, and he thought it was life-changing. In fact, his first job out of college was as a school teacher. And so indeed and in fact, this wonderful idea, it is time for us to build on it. It's time for us to use modern technology to build on it and to help these children to have the kind of wonder in their lives that is possible. And you know, if you read 20 minutes a night to a child, the child hears another 1,000,000 words a year. And if the child hears 1,000,000 words a year, they will pick up at least 1,000 words of vocabulary. So this is like magic. We're talking magic here, but we're talking real life magic, the kind of magic many of us had in our lives. My parents were not college educated people, but I remember from the very earliest stages them reading to us and talking to us. We sang our way across the United States 5 times. The truth is that all of this is about giving these children the kind of wonder and stimulation that are known to many of us. I'm disappointed in my country for not having preschool. Do you know that during the Second World War, when the women went in the workforce in record numbers, we actually had, all 48 states had a form of child care. But today, when we have a higher percentage of women in the workforce, we still as a nation haven't done what every first world nation in the world has done, most of the second world nations have done, and many of the third world nations are doing. The truth is we must understand that this is the investment in the future of America that is far more important than any investment we can make in the military. This is what a patriot does. A patriot fights for its children to have a great education, uses the research we've got to do the right thing. I just remind everybody here that in 1862, the darkest days of the Civil War, Abe Lincoln could easily have said, we can't be thinking about education. We're fighting a war. His predecessor, James Buchanan, had actually vetoed a bill called the Morrill Act. Some of you know what that act did. Some of you may have forgotten. But Lincoln signed the bill in 1862, dreaming that every state in the Union would have at least one land-grant college. How did he do? Well, he did pretty good, I'd say. You've heard of Purdue and Texas A&M, maybe Florida A&M. Have you heard of Cornell, a little place called Duke? A little place called UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Riverside. All because Lincoln had a vision. He didn't have research. He had a vision, he had courage, and he had a heart. And that's what Roosevelt had when he started the GI Bill of Rights and doubled the number of kids going to college in this country. In 46, when a record number of kids were turned away from the military draft because their formative years had come during the Great Depression, Truman had the courage and vision and heart to sign the National School Lunch Act. Go online and read it. It says the health of our nation's children being a matter of national security, the Congress does ordain and establish the School Lunch Act. Courage, vision, heart. And in 57, when Sputnik went up, Eisenhower easily could have said, we have a Cold War and now we have a space race. We can't be thinking education. Instead, in 1958, he signed the National Defense Education Act, creating the largest student loan act in history. That's what courage looks like. That's what vision is, and that's what heart is. And that's what you're doing here. You're showing the courage, the vision, and the heart to do what's right for the next generation of kids. We need more of this in California. I want you to be the beacon for the rest of the state. We got 57 counties to go after you've set up the model here. Thank you so much. I drove here from Davis this morning because I thought this was the most important room I could be in on this glorious Monday morning. in Napa, California. Thank you.
I'd follow her any place. Oh my God. Thank you, Delane. Whoa. Let's talk about a call to action. Whew. We are very fortunate in Napa County that we are all so interrelated, and we all talk to each other all the time and work together, and we are all so focused on education and all understand how important it is. The next person I'm going to ask to say a few words is from the Board of Supervisors. Please welcome Keith Caldwell.
First, I want you all to have a little disappointment because I got to follow that. That was incredible, and I just have to say that I was just very impressed with your knowledge and your dedication to this, and if we can all take a little piece of that back with us to our respective governing bodies, that would be great. Before I get started, please join me in wishing Supervisor Brad Wagenknecht happy birthday. I asked him, that's what happens when you Facebook friend me, Brad. I asked him what he had planned today, and he said meetings. So, you know, Barbara asked me just to say a few words, so I'll get the official part of it out of the way. On behalf of the entire Napa County Board of Supervisors, we really thank Barbara and the Napa County Office of Education, Napa Learns, Chuck McMinn. That's where I first became aware of this is the project. I think we were at Tracy Schuler's house, and we were talking about this, how this was going to work in Calistoga, and then I got to see the results from that first program, and it was incredible. I guess my resume probably today is the fact that I have a 4-year-old grandson, and now that I have a little bit more time in this job, I've spent a considerable amount of time with him and watching his development. And I'm the first to admit that he knows more about my iPad than I do. And I'm hoping that as we move forward, I spend as much time as I can with my 2 grandsons. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, as I possibly can, because I missed out on that in my previous life, my previous career with my own son. And so I'm making up for that now. And I'm very interested in watching them learn and watching how that all the interaction occurs. I can tell you that we need to utilize all of the digital 21st century techniques and everything that's there, because I'm the same as Barbara. I read books. When it's time to go to bed, I read books to them, and 1, 2, 3 books, whatever it is. But I can tell you, when the iPad comes out, Mom's iPad, and they are into that. They want to do that. We'll never replace books, but just utilizing the iPad or whatever the digital media is, it's just incredible. And so we're fortunate enough that our family can afford that, and Grandpa pays for preschool, and the first one's in preschool, and I attend classes with him, and the second one's getting ready as soon as we get that diaper changing thing out of the way. And I've redone my skills on that too. I'm really good at that. But I understand not everyone in this county can afford the preschool. Not everyone can afford the iPad, and especially those young people that English is a second language to them. And so we're actually, English is the first language, but my grandson is learning Spanish. And I can see how this technology will help him with that. So I'd just like to say thank you to the County Office of Education. The Board of Supervisors fully supports this on a countywide basis. I don't know if there's anything that the Board of Supervisors can do to help with this, but if there is, I'm sure Barbara will let me know about that. And also Chuck McMahon for all of your efforts with Napa Learns. It's just a great program, and I really look forward to getting that for my iPad so I can move forward with my grandson. Thank you.
And in the world of interrelationships, our mayor, Jill Teckel, grandmother of twins, and former school board member, Napa Valley Unified, who's been involved in education for a very long time. Mayor Teckel.
So yeah, it's nice to be here. You know, when I sit up here and see innovation, I'm not surprised. Napa has a long history of being innovative, and when I was on the school board, we started New Tech High School, and that was, you know, like, will that work, and will all the resources go there, and, you know, do we really need to take this kind of a leap forward? And now I go to U.S. mayors conferences, and some people know us because of the wine, but they also will tap me on the shoulder and say, you know, we're getting a New Tech High School in our community, and this is all over the country that this is happening. So we've got a pretty good tradition of starting things, being innovated, and it moving all over the country. I am a grandma. The twins are 6, and they have a baby brother that's 3. So I've got plenty of opportunities to share. A few summers ago, I was talking when this program started. It was the kind of the trial run, and Chris, I was a little jealous that it was up in Calistoga that they did this, and was anxious to hear how it was going to go, how it went. And Dorothy would, any moment she had, would talk about how wonderful it went and what the results were. And so I was excited. I was excited for Calistoga. I was excited to see this program start. And mostly I was a little jealous because I had these young grandchildren and I wanted them to be able to have this kind of an opportunity. So I will fess up. Dorothy shared with me the link and her code. And for the past 3 years, the boys have been swiping away. And I had to do a little work with my daughter-in-law. She was like, you know, I don't know if we're going to do technology. And, you know, I don't want them just to be playing games on iPads. And I'm going, you know, this is important, and let me show the research. So thank you for showing the research. And now I show up, and it's like, okay, we can have iPad time with Grandma. So I thank you for sharing. I have seen the results. It's phenomenal. I'm excited that it's going to be available for everyone all over our community. And the next time that I go to a conference, you know, instead of wine and new tech, we're now going to be talking about the Footprints to Brilliance that's happening in Napa, and that can happen all over the country. So I'm proud, and I actually am going to have to run because my daughter-in-law wants to go work in the classroom. She lives in San Carlos, and so I'm the babysitter to stay with the little one. So I'm going to go down there, and I think I know it will do. So thank you. And we have a proclamation, and since I see a whole wall of them over there, and I got to speak, Barbara, can I just present this to you and Chuck and the folks that really put this together? It's one thing to do a trial project. It's another one, you know, you get the results. Whole nother thing to decide that you're going to provide for the whole county, all the children. It's an amazing gift, and we all thank you so much.
So before I introduce our next speaker, I just have to tell you a little bit about how this all got started and how important he was in where we are today. I had seen this particular application, and heard about it and heard about it and heard about it and went, yeah, you know, nothing could be that good. And then when I had a grandchild who was 2, I said, okay, prove it. Put it on my iPad, let's see what happens. And so I brought it to her house, and her parents are of the digital, yeah, don't think so, no screen time, no screen time. I read that study someplace. And I said, this is an experiment, let's just try it. They don't own an iPad. I bring my iPad every 2 months for 3 days. That's about all they get to see it. And she was mesmerized. She loved it. She loved doing the story. She loved hitting the screen and making things happen. And so Chuck McMinn and I were at a conference in Washington, D.C., and so I introduced him to this app and the creator of it. And in such fabulous Chuck fashion, by the time I blinked, it could have been before I flew home to California, he had already talked to Calistoga. He had already arranged to have a pilot program going that very summer. This was February, and the program started in June with 18 preschool kids in Calistoga who had never been to preschool and who were not English speakers as their native language. Chuck McMinn is an amazing, incredible man who has helped us so much with Napa Learns, with the help of his partner, Rick Jones, partner in the sense of they both have this vision for what they want to do for Napa County. Napa Learns has been incredible. The Vintners have been incredible. We have a strategic initiative now to really invest in preschool education because they see how important it is. And Chuck can make things happen faster than anybody I know. So with great pleasure, Chuck McMinn.
Thanks, Barbara. I think the reason that Rick and I and the rest of the Napa Learns board are so passionate about what we're doing is because it's our future. And I think unlike a lot of people in the United States who think of education as just one more investment, we really do think of it as, one more expense. We think of it as an investment in the future of our country. And, you all deal with the kids. I've been in high technology for 25 years, and I deal with the adults that they turn into. And I don't think we realize the disadvantage that we are increasingly at with those employees. I have personally had to shut down a 300-person technical support center in the middle of the United States and hire 600 people in India to do the work because the 300 people in the United States couldn't do it. About 80% of the engineering department at COVID, the company that I started most recently, were foreign born. They were green card holders. They did not come up through our education system. If you're a Fortune 500 company, there's an 80% chance that your tax return is prepared by analysts overseas. If you've had an X-ray in the last 5 years, there's more than a 50% chance that that X-ray is read outside the United States. So we are not competing well. We are not generating the kind of investment in education that is going to help our country to succeed. And we think, and worse than that, it's not a static problem. It's not a problem we just have to go from X to Y. We've actually had the goalposts moved on us in the last 20 years. In 1990, 2/3 of all the jobs in the United States required only a high school education. The projection for 2020 is that 2/3 of the jobs require at least a AA college degree or better. Right now, today, our entire system, our entire education system in the United States only produces about 1/3 of our students that get to that AA degree or better. So we are fundamentally undereducating 1/3 of the population of the United States. So this is not about another experiment here, another trial there. We have the skill to fix this. There are many different models of how to help to improve the educational process. What we seem to be lacking is the will to do it at scale. The will to say, we will take on every single student at every single grade level in an entire county and help them all to succeed. And that's why Napa Learns is here, to say that we have the will to help you to do what needs to be done. And so Footsteps to Brilliance and this program couldn't be more in keeping with what we want to do. We want to help every single child, every single preschooler in this valley to succeed. Give every one of them a chance to be the best that they can be, and not forget about the 1/3 in the middle or the 1/3 at the bottom that we just don't have the resources to take care of. We're here to provide the resources, and one of the biggest things that we can do is to give a resource to each kid, to give a teacher to each kid. And that's what, in my view, technology brings. They're not as good as a real teacher, not by far, but they're better than no teacher, or better than 1/30th of a teacher's attention on any given day. And so that's where I think the role of what we're doing here today is to give kids chance to have an amplifier of the teacher in a classroom, and at home to have an amplifier of the parents. There is no parent at home who says, I don't want my kid to succeed. They all want to. With what we're giving them here, we're giving all parents the opportunity to have a tool that's of superior and professional grade in the hands of that parent to help each and every one of those kids to succeed. And so it couldn't be a better day than helping every kid in Napa Valley. And Napa Learns is very proud to be a part of this. Thank you.
Could I ask all the board members from Napa Learns to please stand up? Okay, okay. Dorothy Salmon, who I'm sure you all know, you met Rick and Chuck, and Peg Maddox, who is the executive director of Napa Learns. Okay, we have a whole bunch of proclamations, and we're not going to read all of them, but we do have Sharon Macklin here representing Assemblywoman Mariko Yamada, so we would like to ask her to come up and over there someplace. Oh, and someone from Congressman Thompson's office.
Thank you. Every time I come to any presentation that Barbara Nemko calls for people to come and join her with news and information about what she's doing and what our community is doing, it always makes me want to go back to school. And I think all of us who are learning as we go with technology are so proud of what the County of Napa is doing. Napa Learns, the County Office of Education. And when I was telling Assemblymember Yamada about this presentation, from what little I knew before I came today, and I'm hoping to learn more, she said, hey, that sounds like something that all of our counties should be doing. So we're hoping that as Napa implements this and we see the progress that's made, that the state legislature will take this on and move it forward for some of the other counties too. So today we have an Assembly Certificate of Recognition for Footsteps to Brilliance, an innovative early literacy program initiated by the Napa County Office of Education and Napa Learns. It's a wonderful program. We're real excited about it. Thank you.
And Myra Ayala representing Congressman Mike Thompson and State Senator Lois Wolk.
I'm very happy and proud to be here, not only because I was born and raised in Napa, and I truly see myself as a product of all the programs that have been initiated here, from Head Start to Migrant Ed to Immersion, bilingual, everything I did it, and I truly believe that I can stand here proud and happy that Napa is going to take on such a new project. Not only being part of these initiatives and these programs, I also had the chance to see firsthand the difficulties for those parents that cannot afford preschool here. And this being my sisters, I have two sisters, two nieces. One was able to go to preschool because, you know, we're happy to have programs here in Napa that can help her pay for it. And then I also have another sister that unfortunately couldn't send my niece to a preschool because she made a little bit too much money and couldn't qualify. So I saw firsthand the difficulties of my two nieces, and I'm happy to be here and share with my family, with my siblings, community organizations, friends, that there is something on the way to help students that for some reason or the other cannot attend preschool, and this is a new method to improve their learning skills. So on behalf of Congressman Mike Thompson, I'm here very, very proud to provide a congressional recognition presented to Napa County of Education and Napa Learns. And I'm also here presenting a certificate from the state senator, Lois Wolk, on her behalf. And once again, thank you and keep up the work, and you make me and everybody very proud. Thank you.
Okay. A brief photo, and we'll be right back. And this is the amazing Jana Waldinger, who also is on the Napa County Board of Trustees, but is a photographer in her professional life and who always volunteers to do this for us. Okay, you want to hear all about what the program really is. You've heard us tell you how wonderful we think it is. Now we're going to turn to what it is, what it looks like, and why it works. This is from Tom Torlakson, who really wished he could be here. Tom was one of the first people who came to Calistoga to see it in that summer of 2011 with our first pilot program, and he stood there and he said, "Oh my God, this is magical." So doesn't say that here. He didn't use those same words. This is a more formal proclamation, but that was what he really thought when he was looking at it. So now I would like to introduce Eugene Narciso. Did I say it right? Narciso. I'll get it right one of these days, who is from Footsteps to Brilliance. He's been there from the beginning, and he is going to take you through what the program is. Eugene.
Good morning. I love it. I love it. Our offices are from Washington, D.C., so I get to meet a lot of people. Senator Feinstein, Senator Boxer sent regards to. What you are doing here is going to be not only the beacon for California, but really the model for the United States. So I really want to applaud you for that effort. I'm one of the co-founders of Footsteps to Brilliance, and when we first got together, we said, what can we do that has never been done before? And our tech people got really scared. They said, okay, what's your vision? We said, we were dreaming of a day that we can flip a switch and any device that lived in the zip code can all get turned on. Stop it versus the Mac versus the PCs, online versus online. We wanted to turn it all on. They said it was impossible. And we proved them wrong. We got it done. And so what we have invented today is something truly transformative. We have what we call an early learning mobile game platform. And what this does, overnight we can flip a switch and any device can get turned on. Why is that important? Because 80% of parents own mobile devices today. And if you look at the research, that's also true of parents who are of poverty, parents of color. So the idea that we could really have an instant scale, instant infrastructure that we can turn on was something that we were truly excited about. And so then the next thing that we did was said, okay, if we have a device agnostic platform, we needed to think in real creative ways about how we engage with school systems. So we changed our mind about old licensing practices where we said one child, one access, and tell me who are the haves and who are going to be the have-nots. And we said, let's break those walls. If we truly invented a device-agnostic platform, let's turn it all on. Let's create a zip code, a citywide, a countywide structure so that we can turn on any child and we could scale quickly. So our model innovation city is all of that. Barbara talked about the 30 million word gap. Our research fundamentally supports that. And I just want to give you a quick video to describe the scale that we're talking about. As a superintendent of public schools, you know that students who do not read proficiently by 3rd grade are likely to drop out of school or end up in jail. While trying to address the 3rd grade reading dilemma, you're probably facing one or more of these challenges. Students with a 30 million word gap, parents who don't read to their children, inadequate funding, and changing student demographics. You know you need to do something differently, but you don't know what that is. Here's the good news. 80% of parents own mobile devices today. What if you could leverage these devices to make early learning solutions accessible to everyone in your school, district, and city? Well, now you can. Footsteps to Brilliance has invented a transformative mobile platform that allows you to create a model innovation city. What's a model innovation city? It's a turnkey, citywide literacy solution that allows you to cost-effectively scale educational apps to the entire city, provide parents with bilingual tools to become their children's first teachers, track real-time data to help every child succeed. How does a model innovation city work? Our unique platform instantly turns on every mobile device in your city. You don't spend money on additional hardware. You provide award-winning literacy curriculum to every family. You get results. To apply to become a Model Innovation City, go to modelinnovationcity.com. So, as you can see, the idea of overnight scale is something that is really getting me up in the morning saying we can make a difference. This is my co-founder and I. We've co-founded other companies before, and we've done a lot of great work. But this, Barbara, what we're doing here, really, I think that this is a model for the nation. One of the things that I want to tell you about is I get the pleasure, because of decades with working with school districts, to partner with the very best. Last year, we were with the National Superintendent of the Year. We're creating Model Innovation Cities. But Barbara said, we got to think bigger here. It can't just be a city. It's got to be an entire county. So this is the very first model that we have that's county-wide, and you are leading the nation. So congratulations, Barbara. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Catherine DeRosa. She's actually going to get into the program so you can take a look at it live.
We have our ABC Animals, which is 26 ebooks. That is a STEM series. So our ALP series is a fiction series, and our Alphabet Animals series is a nonfiction series. So 26 ebooks, one for every letter of the alphabet, and there's 40 additional games with that series. These are the games that Barbara was talking about. We have Whack-A-Word, which deals with the Dolch sight words, and as you can see, we have a different set of words for each of the grade levels from pre-K through grade 3. We have our colors game, which every time I do an implementation, I say the Lucy thing like you did too, with that conveyor belt. They get to choose and work on all the colors, and until they master a color, they have to stay on that color. So it will not progress them through to the next color if they haven't mastered that color. We also have uppercase and lowercase games in the form of See It, Catch It, and Funny Phonics. Those deal with letter names and letter sounds. So we'll get a chance to look at those hopefully in just a second. But it teaches, if they choose the letter B, it says B, bat. So they constantly hear the letter name and the letter sound. And then our Amaze games are letter sequencing. So it takes 3 letters at a time, A, B, C, and they work on those in sequence. We also have a new series that's not out yet. It's called Karaoke Nursery Rhymes, and this has 15 books. It has a record feature for the students, and it has 64 new games. This is absolutely wonderful. Of the 15 books, what happens is you open the book and it sings the nursery rhyme for them, and then on the consecutive pages it breaks it down into a storybook format with all the same features as our other series. We also, in our programs, we also give lesson plans for the teachers. I was a teacher for 20 years before I became part of Footsteps to Brilliance. So I know we have to make it as easy as possible for teachers to use this program. They don't have the time. A lot of times sitting out in a training, they're looking at me like, really, lady, you are asking me to do one more thing and I don't have any time to do what I'm doing already. And I say that to them, and I say we understand that. So what we've done is created lesson plans or pacing guides that we give to the teachers so they have something to look at to add additional activities and games away from the screen time. And everything in our system can be printed as flashcards. So we have a flashcard maker feature in our system, and their teachers are welcome to the hundreds and hundreds of flashcards that we have in our system. So any that go with the books that we have, they might be teaching in math, they might be teaching time. They can go to our flashcards and they can print out time flashcards. So we have flashcards in there that go with our books as well as other flashcards that we've added to help them in their teaching and other areas. So this is our login screen that we have. When you get your login, you will have to put that into this screen. This screen is used for every person who's going to go into our program, whether you're an adult using our program or a student who's using our program. In the blue box, that is a blue box up there that has username and password. Any adult using our system will put in a username and a password, and any child will click on that, use my super secret code button. Every child who's entered into our system gets a 4-picture code. And it coincides, A is for apple, B is for bat, C is for cat, and they put in their 4-picture code. So they don't need a username and a password, they just have to remember that 4-picture code. And as we've said before, they are so able to use technology, that 4-picture code takes them about 3 days, whether they're 2 or they're 22. So that has proven to be very successful for us. So these are we're going into the ALPS program right now. These are our books. We're going to look at the Full Moon Parade. With all of our books in the ALPS system, there are 4 different choices that they can do when they're using our program. We have the Read a Book feature, which will take them through the book. They have the megaphone on every page so the book can be read to them. We have our Book Buddies section, which is our comprehension, so we're testing that comprehension. And if they're young and they're working on this with their families, they can still go through those comprehension questions and start learning that skill. We also have a game section, and in ALPS there's 3 different types of games. We have a spelling game, we have a matching game, and we have a game that works on other cognitive skills to go along with the theme of the book. And then we have our Create a Book feature where they're able to go in and create stories to test their language ability from the stories. So right here we have our English-Spanish toggle switch. That means I'm able to toggle between the English and the Spanish versions at any time. So I can read it in English.
The Full Moon Parade, written by Suzanne Barchers, illustrated by Sebastian LeBlanc.
And then I can go into the
El
Spanish.
desfile de la luna llena, por Suzanne Barchers, ilustrado por Sebastian LeBlanc.
And you can do that on every page. And as Barbara said, you know, they can listen to it in Spanish if that's their first language, and then they just click on that English button and they can hear it in English as well. They can hear every single word on the page in both English and Spanish.
The room is quite full. The plans are all made. No one wants to miss the Full Moon Parade.
So you're seeing some very important skills. We're teaching them that we read left to right. It's highlighting each of the words. You see that there's rhyming words on here. We also use Tier 2 words. So they're not only hearing those basic words that they need to learn to read, they're also hearing Tier 2 words that are more difficult, so they're getting that exposure and that experience with those. There's also the ability to touch on each of the words.
Plans
So they can work on, I say to teachers, if you have a word wall, you can pull some of those words off the word wall, put them on cards, hand them out, and have them go through and touch on those words. So you're getting even more vocabulary than what is already in here. And all of our pictures are animated.
Quiet out there.
And I always have to show this one because this is funny.
Silencio!
The kids love that. That's one of the kids' favorite for this book. So it continues to go through, and we can click on that megaphone button to have it read if they need to. They can touch on the different words. There's one of those Tier 2 words, creep. So that's not a word that many probably have heard before. So what we've done is we've shown them what tiptoeing creeping looks like. And then I tell the teachers you need to get them up and having them tiptoe and creep. So these are interactive books. Young children should not be sitting just reading a book, not doing anything. So those are the types of things that we tell the kids. And then with this book, this is a math-related book, so we introduce numbers in this, and then the baby animal names.
One calf takes the lead. She knows not to speed.
So each page goes through, 2 ponies look fine, they get into line. There's always something fun on the page. 3 lambs are a sight, their coats are all white. 4 kids butt and bite, then they line up right. And you can imagine on this page, what's the first thing they're going to say? Oh, it says barn. So then they talk about that, and then your real smart kids say, that says kids. And I don't see any kids on that page. So then you get to talk about what a kid is. It's not just you, all of you, it's also a baby goat's name. So there's a lot of fun that they have with this. 5 piglets are slow, they stop, then they go. 6 kittens purr and mew, they know what to do. 7 chicks peck and pick, they know to be quick. 8 puppies give chase, they roll into place. 9 ducklings waddle up, they stop by the pups. 10 squirrels are so fast, they know they are last. This is one of their favorites. And I always tell teachers, if you're brave, and you want them to show you how fast they are, you can have them show you how fast they are. The animal parents line up side by side. They watch all their babies parade by with pride. So there's another tier 2 word that you can talk about. Probably many of them have not heard that word before, so you can talk about what that means and maybe continue to use that word in the classroom with them. I'm very proud of the way that you're sitting nicely and reinforce those words with them. And then we get into the animal sounds. The horse goes neigh, the goats go ma. The pig goes oink, the sheep goes ba. The cow goes moo, the duck goes quack. What does that remind you of? Affleck. Yeah. The dog goes rough, the cat meows back. The squirrels and the hens dance with great glee. Then we get a little prediction in here. Then everyone stops. Who do they see? And as I travel across the country and I do trainings on these, I always get very interesting things of who they think their students will say they see. So it's not automatically going to be the farmer. They'll be in their worlds and they'll say whatever. I was in Hawaii in an area that was very poverty stricken, and one of the teachers said, I don't know if I should share this, but I think my kids will say the cops. So you're going to get all different answers for this. So we ask them, who do they see? The farmer is standing right under the moon. Quiet, he shouts. It will be morning soon.
Quiet.
Cállense.
The moon is still full, but you won't hear a peep. Where are the animals? In their beds fast asleep. And you'll have some students that say, if they were just having a full moon parade, how can they be fast asleep already? And I say, oh, that's a good question. Let's look at their faces when we... So we talk about, have you ever fibbed when you were supposed to be doing something?
Hey, Footsteps to Brilliance. Big brains for little people. What would you like to do next?
So that's our read a book feature. That's how it works for every one of our series. As I said, this one is a fiction series, and it's more cute. Our ABC Animals series deals more with vocabulary, so when you click on a picture, if you click on a log, the word log will show up and it'll say log, so we get more into the vocabulary development. And our karaoke nursery rhymes will work the same way as this, because that's obviously fiction. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the other features. So Book Buddies is our comprehension feature, and they can always pick which language they'd like to go in. This is where our differentiation comes into play. So our programs are written for pre-K through grade 3. As you saw in the books, definitely not a chapter book that a third grader might use, but we have different activities that the children can use the book for as a reference to help them. So levels A, B, and C, level A being the easiest. So with level A, our answers to the questions are pictures, so even our youngest learners can use this program. Level B adds phrases and sentences, and then level C, they have to type it in and spell it correctly. So you can see where it progresses up. So what animal is first in the parade? That megaphone is there as well if we need it.
Pony, piglet, calf, kid.
Now, if they're using this book in an interactive way, it's going to take a little bit of time to get through this book. So they might not remember what animal was first in the parade. So what we've done is we've added a hint button that will bring up the page to help them answer that question. So we're teaching them a high order skill of when I don't know something, I can go back and find it in what I've already read. So they can have that read to them as well.
One calf takes the lead. She knows not to speed.
So I can go up and I can find my calf, and I can click on it.
Wow, you're doing a great job.
They get 100 points for the first time, correct, 75, 50, and 25. We don't do anything with the points. It's not like some programs where they can buy coins and go buy funny things. It's just immediate gratification for them to know that they did a great job. They answer a series of 5 questions at each level. I'm going to show you what B looks like. Why did the animals tiptoe and creep? It was a full moon. They didn't want to wake Farmer Black. Their feet hurt. This is how they dance. If you click on any of these, they will read it to them as well. You can see now we've stepped it up a bit. Our questions are all written using Bloom's taxonomy. So we start with the easiest and we move up. So now, if you remember from the story, they tiptoe, they creep. Where's Farmer Black in his bed fast asleep? So he's in his bed fast asleep, but that's not one of our answers. So now we talk to them about, okay, sometimes the answer's not right in the story. We have to think about which answer goes best with that. So you can talk about which of those answers. They didn't want to wake Farmer Black.
B, they didn't want to wake Farmer Black.
And then they get their points. Level C, they have to type it in and spell it correctly. So what does the pig say? They can grab that hint button that has the spelling on there, and they would type it in. They get it wrong.
Try again.
They just have to try again.
Wow, good job.
Okay, so those comprehension testing to see, are they remembering what they're reading? The next part we have are games. Again, we have our 3 different types of games. We have our word wall, which is a spelling game, a matching game, and then a cognitive skill game. We'll take a peek at each of these. Differentiation by our different levels. So with level A, we're thinking of our youngest learners for level A. And what letters do they learn first? Uppercase letters. I have some teachers when I do trainings and they say, why didn't you start with lowercase letters? And I have to say, because this is even for our youngest 18-month-olds. And what do they learn first? They learn those uppercase letters. So level A has uppercase letters and usually 3-letter words that they're spelling. Level B goes to lowercase letters and the words just get harder. Level C, the words get harder. So it's a spelling game for them. They have a hint button here that'll show them that word.
S-I-G, oops, try again. T, oops, try again. V, the letter you want is X. Here is X. X, wow, great job.
And as someone had said earlier, it's a teacher too. So that Sherlock Mouse comes out and helps them find that right answer. They get a couple times to try to get it themselves, and then Sherlock Mouse comes out and helps them. So again, they'll answer 5 at each level, and then it'll move along. So they get a little harder and even harder. Mighty Matches is just like a memory game. Again, our differentiation. So we have at level A, they're just picture cards. Level B, it's a picture card and a word card, and they stay face up so they can make that association. And then level C, those cards get put face down. And this little button here is a good feature because it can increase the number of blocks that they have to solve. So some students may just stay with those picture cards for a long time by adding more blocks, and then when they're ready, they can move on to level B.
Pony, kitten, pony, pony, kitten, kitten.
And every time students are clicking on a word, seeing the picture, hearing the word, clicking on any of those words in the story, we're keeping a count of those words. So a teacher is able to print out a list of all the words that the student has been exposed to in that reading that they did, in that time they sat down. So that's where we get the 180,000 word count that you're going to hear about in just a second. We can find out if there's certain words on their word wall, the word and, the word the, how many times did they interact with those words in this program. The teacher can see that, okay, they interacted 40 times with the word and. We're doing it a lot in our class. They're not getting it. We need to do something else to help them get that word. So we're keeping that continuous count. Level B, the word card and the picture card stay straight up so they can see it. And then they make that pairing. And then level C, they're turned over.
Horse.
Okay? And with Picture Perfect, for this particular book, as I said, it was math concepts, so all of the games within the Picture Perfect for this book will be math related. We have a couple books that are math related, so those cognitive skills will be talked about in this. So which picture has 3 animals?
2, 3, 1, 4.
So I find, if I need that hint, shows me what 3 is. So they're getting that teaching there, and I can put it on.
Great job. Pick a piece of the puzzle to be removed.
So with this game, they have to do 9 different activities before they can move on to the next level. They choose one of the squares until they reveal the picture. Level B is adding, so now which picture has 2 plus 2 animals, and level C is subtracting. So you can see the different skills that they get for that. How am I doing for time? Good? Okay, create a book. This is probably one of my favorite features. Create a book is available to them to write a story about what they just read. They can use the backgrounds and the characters that we give them for each of the books, or they can draw their own pictures to go with their story. Now, our youngest students, we can't expect them to sit there and tick, 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 type in their story very nicely. But parents can work with them. I tell teachers when it's vacation week, give them an assignment that they have to read a book and they have to write a book together. Teachers can see that when they go into their reports because they're able to pull that child's account, print out the book, send it home, and they have a nice family book that they can use together. So with this, they're able to change the title. They're able to change who it's created by. And then they get into the story. So here, I can use some of the backgrounds and characters that are given to me. And they can resize these. They can... And then on another page, they can just do their own drawing if they want to. They can type what they want. And then they hit this done button, and they have their book. So this shows you, this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and there's 4 panels per page. So when you cut this out, they're going to have a little palm-sized book when it's put together. So their little hands have a nice little book. And one thing I'll say about the app, the way this works is you download the app from whatever app store you have for your device, and then you get a username and a password. You download those books and games. Once it's downloaded onto the device, you don't need to be in Wi-Fi to use it. So once everything is downloaded, you could go, that's why we say you could go to the grocery store, you could go to the doctor's office, wherever, use it. But at some point, you'll need to go into a Wi-Fi area, click on the app, and all the reports will upload. I don't know if you noticed on my sign-in screen, but there was a little note that said, you have 42 reports to be uploaded, connect to the internet. That's how you know. So if you have a device and you get that little message on the sign-in screen that says you have so many reports to upload, that just means walk into a Wi-Fi area, click on the app, and it'll start to upload. Okay? Because a lot of our schools don't have Wi-Fi in all the classrooms, so they have a location maybe in the office or in the library where they take those iPads once a week and they get all that information uploaded to our server. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, now this is the fun part, I have to say, because we love this because we know the educational value, but to hear it from a teacher herself, to me, is really the story that tells the test of time. I'm just going to quickly share a 3-minute video that gives you an indication of what actually happened when we first started.
The initial goal of the Summer Bridges program here in Calistoga is to help those children who've never been to preschool before be ready for kindergarten.
I want you to take out your iPad, find our story called Wishes.
But the more exciting part of the Summer Bridges program was the integration of technology for children that are very young. And that's been done through the use of the iPad.
You may walk to your seats.
What we did is we looked at the 1,000 most important vocabulary words that a child needs to succeed. And we then got famous children's authors to write books using those words. And then attached to every book, we ended up putting games that tested comprehension and developed skill sets, and even had children make variations on the book so that they would be using language to tell their own stories.
They have the opportunity to watch me turn real pages, look at who the author is, find the beginning, find the end of a story. And then I'll show the children how a book on the iPad has many of those same characteristics.
We've seen children in just 13 days be exposed to over 100,000 words. We've seen their comprehension rise by 20% when they're reading the books.
The first week that we used a vocabulary app, the children had 11% correct in trying to answer a question. We reviewed that, so we're now about 8 days later, and the same child had a 70% correct rate of getting those vocabulary questions right. And I thought that kind of comprehension in 8 days is a phenomenal growth level.
They're looking at the words, they're not reading yet, but they get to interface with the words, and they still get to answer the questions with fun icons and fill them in, and then they get instant feedback.
I have been teaching kindergarten for 21 years. My thinking was, I'll probably be able to introduce one app a week for the kids, and I'll probably be able to do one digital storybook with the children a week, and that's about how far we will go. I quickly realized within the first 3 days of class that that was not a reality. The children were able to absorb at least 2 digital books a week that gave them a chance to do interactive play and vocabulary development.
The first day I went to the class, I almost started crying because to see their involvement in the educational tools, the books, the games, which all had educational purpose, I realized at that point that something was happening beyond my wildest expectations.
The parents have been coming in once a week for a full session, and they've been introduced to the iPads. They've been taught the different applications and technology that the children are learning.
¿Pueden, por favor, ustedes practicar con ellas? We are planning that for the rest of the summer that they're going to take the iPad home, and the parents can benefit, by using the internet, creating email accounts, and so, yeah, it will be a benefit for the whole family.
To me, it's a model for the future of truly partnering resources to create a first-class experience for these children.
Integrating technology for young children shouldn't even be a question anymore. It would be kind of like asking the question, should crayons and pencils belong in a classroom? The joy of learning can be restored by just bringing in a tool that's going to open the world up.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you someone who I think is absolutely fabulous. I get the pleasure of meeting master teachers throughout the United States, and I gotta tell you, Kim Floyd is the poster child for innovation and early learning. So I'd love, without further ado, to introduce you to my friend, Kim Floyd.
I must say ignorance is bliss, because when I walked into that program at Calistoga, I, on Friday, moved out of my classroom for the school year, had the weekend to set up a classroom and started Monday morning. And I didn't have a lot of training with Footsteps to Brilliance. They said, here, go. I didn't have a lot of curriculum. I just was absolutely ignorant about where I was going and what would happen. But I knew I was having children who had never been to school, who did not speak English, and I didn't speak Spanish. So I was on this great life adventure, but I believed in the power of technology for little kids. I believe that the most important grade level is kindergarten. And I believe, like Barbara said, that if kids do not love school when they start, that they can't love school later either. So for me, there were two things that I heard today. Barbara, you said kids need to love school and they need to come in and play. What Footsteps to Brilliance brought to that classroom was laughter. And when the kids, I did just like this. I put my books up there really big, and they would come and tap, and when things started dancing on the screen, we would all dance. And when they started laughing, the fear fell away, because they were ready to find out that school was going to be something great. And they would say, just like Barb said, do it again, read it again, can we keep going? And that was in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. So those were wonderfully magical moments. Chuck, you said today, amplify. And I would say that technology does not replace a teacher. It's what teachers are going to be able to do with that. And so just setting an iPad and Footsteps in front of a child is not going to bring the magic moment. What's going to happen is when you're supporting your teachers and believing in them, and when the teachers get in there and realize the depth of the program. And Catherine, you didn't have a chance to share the data management part, but when you as a teacher on a weekend can sit on your sofa and in 5 minutes realize where your children have been by reviewing that data, and then the magical piece of the flashcard maker where you can go back and say, wait a minute, I really need my kids to learn these letters or learn these numbers. And you can pull that up, comfortable and cozy at home. Or when I was on vacation, I took my stuff with me, and I could create flashcards that would come back, and we'd use those with all the children to do retelling, to do the vocabulary practice, to share those and send those home. And the children began to own it. Now, what I use this every day in my classroom, and as they were presenting earlier, I was thinking, if you're familiar with iRead, which is our new district, one of the new district reading programs, and they keep saying to me, well, how come all your kids are on grade level? I only have 3 that are not, and they're TKs, they're really young little babies. And I'm thinking maybe it's the increase in vocabulary, because this is how I start my day every day. And the kids aren't looking at me going, I don't want to do that, teacher. They're saying, just 1 more minute. Can I read 1 more book? Can I go a little farther? The other thing I see is that they're head-to-head, because I don't have 1-to-1 iPads. I have 2-to-1. And so I often see one kid looking over at the other because they want to see what's going on. And I hear their little cheers. I got 100 points. I got 75 points, which go nowhere except for their heart. And it's their heart that says, I was successful today using this. It's a really powerful thing. So what will that bring? It'll bring play back to your classroom. It will amplify you as a teacher, so that when I don't have time to read to my students over and over, they're going back to their favorite stories again and again. So I was sharing with Chuck a few minutes ago. I absolutely adore the new piece that's in here that's all nonfiction. Beautifully aligned to Common Core. And so last week I said to my students, we were talking about community helpers. I said, find a book in there. You do the work, and you find the book that shows somebody helping somebody else. And I walked around the room, and I thought, I wonder if there is a book in there that they're going to find. And what was magical to me is that they were able to justify their choices. So one of the kids is reading a book about a monkey, and I'm thinking, what about that monkey shows that you're helping others? But he was able to explain to me how the monkey was helping the audience in the zoo. And there was the story of Daniel the dog, about the guide dog, which they read over and over and over again, so much so that the parents came back to me and said, what in the world are you doing in there? What's the story? Did you bring a guide dog to school? So giving them voice and choice, when they open that library, and often I will assign a book and say, you have to read this first, and next you can make your own choices. But giving them choice and allowing them a little bit of control over who they are and what they're doing in the classroom has also been a very powerful venue. Things that I love that it plays with them. I love that it's not just technology oriented, because the pieces that are in there, and later you'll probably talk about Recipe Box, Recipe Box is a place in that app where teachers can contribute ideas. So if I've read Full Moon Parade and I think, you know what, this is what I did with this. This is an art project that I developed. This is a phonics game that I developed. This is a math skill that I developed based on that book. I can put all that in there in what's called a recipe. And I can share that with the teachers at my site, but I can share it with teachers across the nation. So suddenly what I'm doing helps at somebody else. My influence is not limited to my classroom. It's suddenly gotten bigger. Parents love it. When my kids are going on vacation during the middle of the school year and parents say, give me a homework packet, I can say, you need to log in every day. You need to do comprehension. The kids love it because it's not hard. And I can say, start with this star, move to the second star, and they understand their way to work through there. The content is powerful. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan. And I feel like you're not going to understand it till you get in there and you get to open it up and you get to play with it. Support your teachers and believe in them because it's scary in the beginning. And the first time that you launch out there and you realize that the kids are smarter than you, or that they have found a piece that you don't know how to use, like in Create a Book, and they say, I don't know how to make my words come back, or I can't find that page. That's okay, because I think the most beautiful part of technology is that it's kind of leveled our classrooms so that we're all learning new things together, and that is great. That's how it should be. And I would love to answer questions too, so I don't know if there's anything specific. It can be aligned to the curriculum that's currently in our classrooms. I haven't, no, but I'm still in contact with the teachers up there in Calistoga. Okay, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Well, you've been very patient. You've been listening for a long time, and we want to give you an opportunity to play with it, which is what we're going to do. So I just want to leave you with a couple of very quick concluding thoughts. Number one, what makes this so exciting is the level of engagement. When we were in Calistoga, that 4-week pilot program, we were so excited. We invited everybody and their uncle to come and see it. So we would be in the classroom. There'd be 18 kids and 23 adults, all standing around talking to each other. And the kids would look over and say, can I have my headphones, please? They weren't distracted. They wanted to close us out because we were getting in the way of them reading those stories and playing those games, which was phenomenal. Second thing is we're going to, because you signed in and you gave us your email, you will get an email that will direct you to where you get your super secret code. So everybody in this room is going to have a super secret code, and you will be able to log in. The teachers are invited. We have 2 trainings. One is this afternoon and one is March 31st, so that teachers can learn how to use it. We will get a record of how many books are being read countywide, how many words are being read countywide. And so we are offering the 1 million word challenge. We challenge the preschool children of Napa County to read 1 million words before June 30th of this school year. And we will get updated reports on what is going on, and let's see if we can do that, 1 million words for the rest of this school year. So we hope that you will come back and play with some of it. We have lots of refreshments. Talk to each other. Ask us questions. Kim is here to help you with anything because she was the first one to experience it. Is Jeanette here? Jeanette is going to be our trainer for all of our 23 preschool classes, our 16 teachers. We have 4 iPads in every one of those classrooms as a center, and kids will spend 20 minutes a day getting to read the stories. Of course, my hope is next year we'll have 8 iPads in every classroom, and that kids will have more opportunity to do it. But tell your friends, tell everybody. We want everybody to log in and get their super secret code, and we are going to rock the world of preschool readiness for reading. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for helping us.